Hello. Is it working? Is the stream going? It's kind of hard for me to tell. Let me see if I can pull up something over here. Dang it. Is it working? Is it not? I don't understand. I wish there was an easier way for me to tell if this was working or not. Well, let's see. Stream. Oh, hello. Okay, is it working now? Is it working now? I hope everyone's here. Hello. Sorry. Starting the stream was weird. I guess it lagged or something, I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying out. I think I'm able to do reaction videos now. I think I figured it out, hopefully. Also, yes, I am sick still. I had people who have kept up with community posts know that I have COVID once again. I'm feeling a little better though. I should be fine within a few days, maybe a week. Hopefully, I've been taking medicine. So if I sniffle or cough or whatever, it's because I'm sick. Okay, so not many people in this room yet. That's fine. I thought we would do something a little different today and see if we could figure out if these reaction videos would actually work or not. And I was like, hey, since the 10-year anniversary of FNAF is coming up, why don't we do a stream where we react to MatPat's FNAF Theory videos? He has, dang, over 100 at this point. Man, FNAF has been a big part of my life growing up. Jeez, it's what got me into liking horror. I did not like scary things as a child, but when FNAF came out, I was still scared of it, but then I was like, how do I make this not scary for myself? And then I wrote a fanfic humanizing the animatronics, so I wasn't scary anymore. And then it got me into other horror stuff like Little Nightmares and Doki Doki Literature Club and that kind of thing. So that's really fun. Yeah, longtime viewers of the channel will remember my FNAF days. So I know this channel's now more Rise of the TMNT, which I do love, and I'm still happy to produce stuff like that. But I do kind of wish I could go back and do the FNAF things that I remember doing. Yeah. So, of course, by the way, I have already seen all of MatPat's Theory videos. I watch them when they come out. Tom's taken over. He's doing good. But it's just fun to look at a retrospective of it froze. It froze again. It always does this. The frame freezes me, and I don't know how to fix it without it just going back to freezing again within the next few minutes. Okay, I can try to fix it one time, and if it doesn't fix it, if it freezes again, I'm just going to keep going. Okay? Okay. Alright, let's see if I can fix this. Go back here. 3, 2, 1. Hopefully it'll do something. Go back. And let's see. Okay, it's back at least for a couple minutes. So anyway, why don't we just get this show on the road? I don't know how long the stream is gonna last. I'm gonna try to go for about 2 hours. We'll see what happens. I'll be watching MatPat's videos, pausing, making commentary, retrospective, that kind of thing, hopefully. Sometimes I get too invested and I forget I'm watching and I'm supposed to be reacting. But yeah, let's have fun.
Hello once again, theorists. Welcome to MatPat Plays. Today we are playing the scariest game of all creation. Probably never heard of it. It's called Five Nights at Freddy's.
Man, it's weird to remember that FNAF was obscure. Even if it was like for such a short amount of time in its lifespan. Hello everyone. Sorry. It's weird. And it's also, I also really love this intro that MatPat made where he's just clowning on everyone's gameplay video reactions to it and being overly scared when he was just like, whatever.
Here we go. What's this? It's a camera.
It's a camera, guys.
The camera came up. Was that a bunny? Was that a bunny?
Also, just interesting factoid about when I first saw FNAF and stuff. I saw this image of Bonnie here, and because I couldn't really see his ears, I at first thought that he was like a dog. Which, you know, that led into the Sparky the dog hoax as well. But yeah, interesting. I guess I was just dumb.
I think it was a bunny. Oh my gosh. I am so scared right now.
Literally me.
It was only the fan.
It's just the fan, guys.
It's only the fan.
Just the fan.
Only the fan.
I love that running joke with the fan.
I've never played a game this intense. Oh god, shut the doors, shut the doors, shut the doors. Please don't see me.
I haven't actually watched any of his videos with the captions on. I'm curious how people could make it work. And include other jokes in it too.
Just the fan. Just the fan.
It's just the fan.
I don't know about you, but every time the camera makes the sound to come up, I pee a little bit in my pants.
Oh, it's so scary.
What?
So scary.
That's it?
I can't. Oh my gosh.
That's it?
It's too terrifying. It's too terrifying
scare.
for me.
It's a little bunny rabbit jump scare. Really? Really? Alright. I mean, oh god, it's so terrifying.
It's so scary.
There's the bunny rabbit, shut my door.
I love how he is just like chill about it now.
Really compelling gameplay. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm almost out of power. 11% and it's 5 a.m. I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
It's so
Please
scary.
don't get me, Freddy. Please don't get me, Freddy. That's
Golden Freddy.
Get news on news.
What is that?
What is this?
Gatorade Zero Powder.
Oh,
All
ads.
the electrolytes of Gatorade with zero sugar.
Okay.
Pixelgun 3D.
I wish I had no ads. That would be great.
It produces on players too.
Skip. Nail it. Man, I missed the intro. Kind of loud, sorry. Trying to gauge how loud I need the video to be or not. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory. Dang. Man, I can't believe it's been so long. Ah, man, I've been a fan of MatPat since his first Minecraft Creeper video. It's already almost been a decade since, dang, it's everything. I feel old. Do you feel old? Because I feel old.
Fear is our middle name. Matthew Fear Patrick. It's a very strange name. Okay,
It is.
I'll admit it. I didn't give Five Nights at Freddy's enough credit
I
when it first
can't-
came
I
out.
can't
A few jump
really,
scares from creatures that,
compare, though.
aren't that scary.
Renaissance is a
People
strange
overreacting
name.
to it on
Whatever.
YouTube. Meh, pass. But then when I asked you about it, you showed overwhelming support for an episode on the game on Twitter, so I began to dig a little deeper.
Dig in a little
and what
deeper.
I found was some of the most interesting stories.
Is FNAF even for kids? I I don't think it was intended to, but then because it got such a big fan base of kids, it just kind of happened to go in that direction. I don't know, man.
Storytelling, most
Dang.
intriguing
I
mysteries,
was
and most disturbing
youngish.
events I'd read about in a
Oh,
long
right,
time.
right.
Now, if you were just to play the game,
I was prepared for this reaction, but for some reason I wasn't prepared for this episode in particular. It's like the one where it had the real events of everything. Dang. That was rough, but you know what? We gotta start somewhere, and
game
we
straight
gotta keep
through
going.
5 days. The story would actually come across as pretty superficial. You're the new night guard watching the security cameras at a
guard.
Chuck E. Cheese style restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. 4 animatronics
Freddy.
roam the halls at night because the owners don't want their servos to lock up. Bad news is, you can't let them near you or else they'll kill you on the spot because you look like a naked endoskeleton.
Yikes.
Ow, ow! Show them those circuits. Apparently, one of them bit someone back in 87, presumably 1987. And the past guard leaves you recorded phone messages.
Is it the bite of 87? Or the bite of 83? It's the bite of 87. If you guys are curious, I do have a FNAF Theory video I made recently. I don't know how accurate it is, but it was fun to make, so if you guys want to check that out, you can.
To act as your tutorial, that is, as much as he could record before he got himself killed. And
Oof.
that's it. Stay 5 nights, collect your paycheck, done, game over, play
Woohoo.
something new. But playing it that way is doing the game a huge disservice, because
Yeah.
that's not even scratching the surface. If you're really
It's so interesting how FNAF kind of like was the first, or at least the popularizer of storytelling through the subtle details that aren't like in your face. You have to go into game files, you have to look at the atmosphere. It's not just told to you. It's very interesting. Could that also be what led to like the popularization of ARGs? I'm curious if FNAF was the cause of that or not. Huh. Something to think about.
observant, you start to unravel the layers of unsolved mysteries around this place. You find that there's a 5th animatronic, that posters on the wall will change randomly, that news
So
clippings
spooky.
appear and disappear, telling the dark secrets of this twisted place. Putting it all together, here's the rest of the story. Freddy
Ooh.
Fazbear's Pizza, once a popular restaurant, fell into hard
I
times.
also love how they
5
use the Chuck E.
children went missing
Cheese
there after being
buildings
lured to
for
a
it.
back room by a man dressed in a character costume. Though a
Yikes.
suspect was caught and convicted, the bodies of the children were never recovered.
Spooky.
The pizzeria was also threatened with shutdown due to sanitation complaints, as foul odors started to come from the animatronics, blood and mucus oozing from
Gross.
their eyes and mouths. The last article, written years
It's kind of interesting how, at least in the first game in universe, people are just like, blood and mucus coming from the animatronics. That's weird. But then they kind of just don't really put together that, oh, maybe the bodies of the children were in the animatronics. You know, only, I don't know.
after the incident states that the pizzeria would finally be closed by year end. In addition to the core 4 robots, Chica, Bonnie, Freddy, and Foxy, there's also a 5th, unofficially referred to as Golden Freddy.
Interesting how Golden Freddy also became the official name. It was originally dubbed by the fans, and then Scott was just like, yeah, let's roll with that, and he took it. So I thought that's really cool. Also, side note, everyone around like the first game, second game era, I guess the first year era, everyone's favorite animatronic was Foxy. Freddy was always my favorite. I was the odd one out. Everyone was always writing like fanfics about teaming up with Foxy, whatever. And I'm here being like, but I need Freddy. He's in charge. He has so much depth if you just look at whatever. It's okay.
Ignoring the rules of
I got
physics, Golden
validated
Freddy
when
appears
security
and
breach
disappears
happened.
at will, can inexplicably travel through doors wherever, causing strange hallucinations.
It's so
and
spooky.
when he attacks you, you're not taken to the typical game over screen. Your game crashes. So
Yep.
that's unsettling. And
Very
there's also
unsettling.
strange messages appearing on the walls, repeating the words, "It's me."
It's me.
According to the game's creator,
It's me.
the place is indeed haunted by what we can only assume to be the spirits of the 5 lost children. So that's
Yep.
the gist of it. Murder, missing children, foul odors, killer robots,
And pizza.
But that story leaves a lot of lingering questions. Who is your character? How's he fit in? Why does he stay for 5 nights when he's very clearly confronting the...
Retrospective, we now probably are sure that this is Michael Afton? Michael Emily? We at least know his role as the character, but it's really interesting to speculate, like, at the time who he was.
possibility of death. What more can we know about this terrifying Golden Freddy? And most importantly, what is the complete story behind Five Nights at Freddy's? They're all good questions about a delightfully incomplete and mysterious story with just enough threads to keep you theorizing. So now, if you'll indulge me, let me reciprocate that story with one of my own. I think you'll find it interesting.
Yeah, by the way, so if you guys don't know, these are real events coming up that happened. So kind of disturbing. It's not like super graphically detailed, but just heads up if you guys aren't aware.
December 1993,
Yeah.
Aurora, Colorado. 10 p.m. Tuesday night at a local Chuck E. Cheese. After a family birthday party runs long, manager Margaret Kohlberg and teenage employees Sylvia Crowell, Ben Grant, Colleen O'Connor, and Bobby Stevens are forced to stay late to close up shop. But as Margaret tallies receipts in the back, Bobby scrubs down the kitchen, and the other 3 work outside in the main arcade. Unknown to any of the 5, there's actually a 6th person locked in the building with them, waiting silently.
I couldn't even imagine being in this situation. Can you? It's just so sad and scary, and it makes me angry. Yeah.
Silently in the darkened restrooms. A 19-year-old named Nathan Dunlap. Earlier that year, Nathan had begun working there as a cook, dough master, before getting fired in July after a disagreement over his hours. Now, 5 months later, he was back. At 10:05, he left the bathroom, pulled out a small caliber handgun, and proceeded to execute everyone in the building. First Sylvia, then Ben, then Colleen. Dunlap then moved to the kitchen, where he surprised Bobby Stevens. The bullet entered Bobby's jaw, sending him sprawling onto the ground. Then finally, Nathan moved to the back, the office, where Margaret opened the safe before Nathan shot her twice, proceeded to grab her bag, filling it with $1,600 in cash, arcade tokens, and keychains. Spurred on by the building security footage, police were at his home a few hours later, where he was promptly arrested.
I don't even know what to comment on that. It's just awful. It's Matt Pat discusses it later in the later here in a few minutes anyway, and it's basically what I'm thinking about this whole situation that happened. It's just so sad.
Eventually, he was tried and sentenced to death, but his story re-entered the news just recently as his punishment has been postponed, leading people to debate whether he's able to sleep soundly, knowing that his execution has been delayed.
Don't you want Chick-fil-A after that? Oh, that's so bad.
Are you a Roblox fanatic? Microsoft Rewards
I'm
has a
not,
brand new way
unfortunately.
for you to earn.
Okay.
This is a tragic story, a
It really is.
disgusting waste of human life, and one that I won't joke about or make fun of in any way, but I want to address it because I have a strong suspicion that this story is the one that inspired Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's look at the facts.
I'm not saying that this isn't true anymore. I'm just curious on if this really was what inspired Scott to... Well, I mean, we know that he was inspired by people, thinking that his 3D characters in previous games looked like scary animatronics. But I wondered if he actually knew about this, this story, this event that happened beforehand, or if it was just a coincidence or not. It's very interesting to think about.
First, I don't think that there's any doubt that Freddy's is a parody of Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh,
From
yeah,
the
definitely.
singing animatronics to the alliterative naming of the characters, the parallels are just obvious, so the setting is certainly the same. Next, what year does Five Nights take place? The time is certainly kept vague, but there are clues that we can put together. For one, the Chuck E. Cheese franchise had a tremendous period of growth and success in the late 80s and early 90s, but started to decline along the same time as arcades, with at-home video game consoles taking center stage. So that's one
Yeah.
clue, but we can get even more detail.
Interesting
Specifically
thing
with
about Chuck E. Cheese as well. I went there a few years ago with one of my younger cousins, and there was like no playground or stage or anything like that. It was literally just an arcade. I mean, I think there was kind of a dance floor, but it was weird because that same Chuck E. Cheese I'd gone to when I was a kid, and it had like this big playground with it, all these other cool interactive arcade games, but like it was also, it had those things, not a carousel, but like those things that you put like a coin in and you ride on the back of a horse or something. It had things like that. It had a stage, an interactive stage where you could go in front of a green screen and dance on camera. And then they just kind of like got rid of all of that. Then now it's just the arcade, and it was weird. It was kind of surreal. It was just like, man, Chuck E. Cheese is trying. I guess that they're updating with the times. I don't know, man. It was weird.
Character's paycheck. Each night you're working a 6-hour shift, and you're spending 5 nights there. So that's 30 hours of total work time for $120. In total, $4 an hour. How can they do that? That's below minimum wage for 2014. But in 1990,
basically what
minimum
I'm
wage
getting
was
paid.
$3.80.
No, I'm not even getting
in
paid that.
1991, it was raised to $4.25. And by 1996, you were looking at about $5 an hour. So the game seems to take place between 1991 and 1996. The Nathan Dunlap story took place in 1993. But let's move on to the most important comparison. The victims. In the game, there were 5 child victims. In the real-life story, there were also 5 victims. But we can get even more specific. Online theories about the game always tend to draw a parallel between the number of kids missing to the number of animatronics, saying that the children's bodies were stuffed in the various suits. And this appears to be true. Bonnie and Chica both have moans and raspy breath sound effects, as though someone's trying to cling to the last threads of their lives stuffed inside the costumes. And other sounds made by the animatronics are just slowed down versions of children's laughs and screams.
So
Additionally, as the news clipping mentions, the suits ooze blood and mucus and begin to stink like decaying bodies or reanimated corpses.
Gross.
So 5 victims, 5 suits. Seems like a slam dunk, but nowhere does it say that all 5 were murdered, only that they went missing and couldn't be found. Also, the trouble a lot of people have with this theory is Golden Freddy. Why is that guy so limp and lifeless, so unlike the others? It's weird, until you go back to the real-life story. Yes, there were 5 people shot that night in Chuck E. Cheese, which matches the 5 victims in Freddy's story, but of those, 1 survived. Bobby, the one from the kitchen, miraculously survived the shot to his jaw after he was knocked to the floor by...
So, interesting thing, when I first saw this this video back when it like actually came out almost 10 years ago, geez, long time. I had actually noticed that when he was telling the story, I noticed that he kind of avoided saying that Bobby was executed, killed, whatever. He was just shot and he went limp on the floor, and I was like, did he survive? And I also noted his pictures, like that kind of looks a little more modern than the other ones. So I was like, at least someone got out of there alive. Jeez.
By the bullet, he went limp, played dead, to avoid the killer coming back to finish the job. And that relates exactly to the advice you're given on night 3 by the phone guy.
Try playing dead. You know, go limp.
Again, let me reiterate that I'm not trying to make light of the real-life events by comparing them to bear costumes and animatronics, but I do want to point out that these similarities do exist. And what else?
That's kind of the thing when you're trying to tell a story like this, if it's like commenting on or retelling or just taking inspiration from, people can take it the wrong way, and I don't know. It kind of sucks if you're just there trying to tell your story and maybe you're trying to actually say something meaningful about it, and people are just like, no, you're just being disrespectful. You don't care. It's like, it's not what you're trying to do. Actually, it's not what we're trying to do.
Is limp and appears to be a lifeless, empty suit in the game, Golden Freddy. Surviving the attack, Bobby was able to go to trial and be a damning piece of evidence in the case against Nathan Dunlap, ultimately leading to his death sentence. Which animatronic surprises you by appearing randomly? The one you don't expect and has no clear pattern? Golden Freddy. It's also worth mentioning that of all the cameras in the restaurant, one is always black, preventing you from seeing what's going on. That camera is located in the kitchen, leading many to assume it's where Golden Freddy hides, which just so happens to be the place Bobby was able to survive the attack.
So also, this is probably, I guess maybe what Scott intended at the time of making his game. Or at the very least, I think the kitchen camera was disabled, deactivated, whatever, so that way he wouldn't have to animate Chica going crazy in the kitchen. That's also a possibility. But yeah, it's also an interesting similarity.
Attack. So I ask, odd coincidence or source of inspiration? In fact, if you think about it, the behavior of the animatronics really corresponds with key features of each of the real-life story's victims. We just covered Golden Freddy and Bobby, but the rest have strange parallels too. Bonnie goes into the utility closet filled with floor cleaning supplies, the most prominent ones being a mop and a broom. It's probably one of the most random rooms in the game, until you consider that Ben, the second victim, was vacuuming at the time of the attack. Foxy is kept sequestered in the back of the building, behind a curtain, more aggressive than all the rest. Similar to the way Margaret, the manager, was in the back office counting receipts at the time of the murder, and her role as manager would inherently make her more aggressive or assertive. Sylvia was closest to the bathroom and was cleaning up the salad bar at the time of the attack. Chica walks past the bathroom and is associated with food. And Freddy, well, he doesn't have that strong of a parallel with Colleen, but he does appear in the girls' restroom. Odd for what we would assume to be a male animatronic. Maybe it's a reference to Colleen being a girl, or a nod to Nathan's plan of hiding in the bathroom until he was ready to attack. Alright, after doing all the...
So yeah, that actually led to one of the fanfics I wrote way back when, where I was like, I came up with like OCs for the missing children. Obviously nowadays we actually have names, descriptions, and the sort of the missing children. But back then we had no idea, so people were just coming up with their own OCs for them. And so the iteration I made is that I went with the theory that Freddy was possessed by a female spirit, and I thought that was really interesting. Also because technically the laughter track for both Freddy and Golden Freddy was of a little girl giggling. I was like, oh, let's take that and roll with it. I don't know, I just liked that idea for some reason. But yeah, obviously nowadays we know that that's not accurate.
Research, reading every fan theory in existence, and putting all the clues together, what can this mean for the story of the game? I think the game is an allegory for that night back in 1993. Here's my final interpretation. You, Mike Schmidt, are the murderer, former employee of Freddy's Pizzeria. Like Nathan in the real story, you were fired for the reasons stated in the Day 7 pink slip: tampering with the animatronics, being unprofessional, odor. Maybe it was your tampering with the robots that caused the infamous bite of 87. Regardless, like Nathan, you were mad and wanted to get even. So you lured children to the back using a costume, killed them, stuffed their bodies into the animatronic suits, hoping to get the place shut down, then left. Notice that the newspaper clippings never say it's an employee of the company luring the children away, but we know it must have been someone with access and knowledge of the employees only section of the building. And as the newspaper clippings clearly show, just like Nathan, you were caught almost immediately, captured on the security footage. You were arrested, tried, and convicted, forced now to live on death row. The Freddy's Pizzeria you work in now are just the nightmares that haunt you, taunting you every night with the phrase, "It's me, it's me." It is you. You are the killer. The nightmare is also why everything is so surreal. Posters switching at random, heads on the animatronics glitching, Golden Freddy appearing and disappearing.
So obviously nowadays we know that that's not true. But it was, I mean, at the time we had nothing else to go off of, so it was honestly a good theory at the time. It was, because, you know, theories have to be crafted by what we already have. We couldn't just make up someone random and say, yeah, this is totally what it is if you don't have any proof. Obviously nowadays we do have more proof that the killer was William Afton. But back then we had no idea. We were still trying to figure that out.
At will, taunting you as the one that got away. It's also why you're only at the pizzeria from midnight to 6 a.m. every night. It's a nightmare. It's in your sleep. It's a place you created. A restaurant long closed as evidenced by the spider webs. And overrun with angry spirits out for revenge on you and you alone as the...
Also, like a question here. So how many of you actually go to bed like at midnight or around midnight? I try to fall asleep around midnight. I have a bedtime for myself because I do not get good sleep. So, yeah.
The one who took their lives, as evidenced by them completely ignoring the naked endoskeleton elsewhere in the building. It's also a place you can't escape from, why you find yourself back there night after night, even after you complete your 5 nights. See you back next week, the ending text goes. You're unable to leave this terror, the threat of death, the guilt, because it never ends. And in a delightfully ironic twist, your personal hell forces you to supervise the exact same security footage that led to your capture in the first place. But hey, that's just a theory.
A game theory.
Sweet dreams.
Maniacal laughter. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Ah, man. That was interesting to look back on. Dang. I can't believe it's been nearly a decade. It's almost a decade since FNAF came out. It's insane. Oh no, it's okay, don't worry. We can go back and look at other stuff. You can go back and watch the recording of this. Don't worry, don't worry. How about we watch the next one? I'm thinking maybe we'll watch the FNAF 2 theory video. And then if we have time, we might do is it a 2-parter for FNAF 3? I'm not sure. Anyway.
Hello?
Dang it, my thing froze again. I mean, it held up longer than I thought it would, so let me see if I can fix it again. I'd actually be willing to fix it if it stays for longer than 2 minutes. Share. Let's do that. Don't worry, guys, I'm fixing it. Don't worry, don't worry. And then... Okay, I'm back. We'll see how long it lasts.
Hello? Oh, hello, and welcome to the new and improved Five Nights at Freddy's 2 video.
It's so insane how FNAF 2 came out so
so
quickly after the first
The
one.
game's developer,
Like, I know it was a
pretty tricky
few
guy.
months, but
Don't
Scott
worry,
is...
though. We'll get everything cleared up.
Like, at this time,
Oh,
he
and,
was just
watch out
pumping
for
them
the
out. It was
bugs.
insane.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that promises not to include any more gratuitous jump scares, unless that's just what I want you to think, so I can lull you into a false sense of security and scare you again. I wouldn't do that. I'll just let the uncertainty of whether a jump scare is going to happen or not drive you insane for the rest of this episode. Man, I love reverse psychology. You know what else I love? These games! Not because I'm freaked out by the rosy-cheeked, tingle-looking, emotionally dead animatronics. Okay, well, Balloon Kid is pretty messed up, but whatever. No, what I appreciate about these games is the level of thought
Dang,
that went
Balloon
into
Boy
every
was so
element
annoying.
of the
Balloon Boy was so annoying. But interesting thing I saw in the fandom that each one of the animatronics, like, someone had them as their favorite. Like, oh, Toy Bonnie's my new favorite. He's so creepy but weird and cool. Just like, Toy Chica's my favorite. Or, oh, Mangle's my favorite. Mangle was a big favorite for a lot of people. But you know who wasn't a bunch of people's favorite? Toy Freddy. You would think it would be Balloon Boy. You would think, but there were some people online who just loved the little gremlin for some reason. But everyone was just like, Toy Freddy? He's alright, I guess. And I was one of those people. I preferred Withered Freddy.
story. When you create a game that has people rage debating about whether it's a sequel or a prequel, you've definitely done something right. Unless that was never your intent, in which case you've done something horribly, horribly wrong. Anyway,
Yeah.
the point is, Five Nights at
I think it
Freddy's
was
2 looks
intentional,
to
though.
be everything you'd want in a sequel. More cameras, more danger, and more fan. Oh, the fan. But that also comes with more questions. Questions about the game's lore. And while others will provide you with the jump scares, I provide you with what everyone really wants, answers.
The
well, maybe not
lore.
everyone. What an elite, educated subset of you really want, answers. So grab yourselves
The
a slice
lore.
of Freddy Fazbear's signature pizza, because we're about to dig in. Ugh. Tastes like cardboard. Let's get the big one out of the way first. Is
Random question. What is your guys' favorite pizza place? I'm just curious.
the game a sequel or a prequel sequel? And what I mean by that is, contrary to popular belief, just because it has a big 2 slapped next to the name doesn't automatically mean the game comes after the first one in a timeline sense.
Definitely.
It's a sequel, yes, but it tells a prequel story. Take for instance these all-time classics, Psycho 4 The Beginning, Lion King 1.5, and the actual all-time classic Godfather Part 2. All of them sequels that just so happen to all
Yeah. Also, just freaking love Lion King 1.5. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid. It was so much fun.
also be prequels. It's not mutually exclusive. So where's Five Nights at Freddy's 2 fit in? Knowing its place in the timeline is crucial for understanding its story. Well, to figure that out, let's focus on the paycheck you receive at the end of your 5th night. The date places the events of the game in 1987, a whole
Jeremy
6 years ahead
Fitzgerald.
of when we determined the first game took place in our first video. Sounds like a prequel, but we found that date in the first game by calculating Mike Schmidt's hourly pay and comparing that to the minimum wage of the 90s. If Scott
Good
Coffin,
method.
the game's developer, is just picking random numbers for the payments, this bit of evidence would be meaningless. Except that he's not. At the end of
Haha.
Five Nights 2, you get paid $100.50. Divide that by the 30 hours worked, and you get $3.35 an hour, the exact minimum wage for 1987.
Scott did his research. Scott definitely did his research. Also, I remember watching Markiplier's playthrough of this game, and he got the check at the end, and he was like, I got even less money! That was really funny to watch.
Which means that us using minimum wage calculations to identify the year of Five Nights 1 is a perfectly valid way to prove it, and shows that it takes place after the events of Five Nights 2. Still don't believe me?
Yeah.
Players brave enough to survive the extra night 6 are rewarded with a bonus check and a newspaper clipping that says the toy robots are getting scrapped, and that the old ones are going into storage for a new, smaller scale version of the restaurant. That would
Yep.
explain why the old models reappear in Five Nights 1 and the toy models don't. And notice how it
Yeah.
mentions a smaller version of the restaurant. The
Haha.
building in Five Nights 1 is significantly smaller than the setting of Five Nights 2. Need more evidence? What about the fact that on the first night in the office, the phone guy explains that the robots used to walk around during the day just like they do in Five Nights 2, but not anymore? Or the fact that phone guy dies in the first game, making it hard for him to also be the phone guy in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 if it takes place after. Call me
Yeah, there was one person I knew around the time who was convinced that FNAF 2 was a sequel in the timeline, not a prequel. And I was just like, but all of this evidence, and the paycheck literally says, and he's just like, no, it's a sequel. It comes after FNAF 1. And everyone was just like, bruh, really? Yeah.
The Phantom Menace, because every way to Sunday, this game is a prequel.
Let's
so with
go.
that revelation out of the way, we're able to piece together the rest of the timeline and dig a little bit deeper. Posters everywhere in Five Nights 2 welcome you to this new location, implying that there was another Freddy Fazbear's Pizza somewhere before this one. Additionally, the phone guy makes reference to it on night 1, mentioning the old location and how it was left to rot. So we know that there was one Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for the first game, one for the second game, and one that came before both of them that we've never seen. But even before that,
dang, how many locations are there at this point in the timeline? Just the fact that we had 2 here in the timeline, and then 3 actually this early on, it was crazy, man. We were trying to figure out the timeline, and then at some point MatPat just gave up. Man.
Phone guy also mentions an even older restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner, which, aside from its confusingly different name, also had different owners. So let me recap. There's the restaurant from the first game, which is the last in the timeline. The one that you're currently working at in 1987 in Five Nights 2, an older location of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria left to rot, and the original Fredbear's Diner. Jeez, I hope you're still with me, because this is more complicated than the Zelda timeline. Anyway, it's at this first location.
No idea, MatPat. You have no idea what you're getting into here.
Diner, where the whole story begins. Submitted for the approval of the Game Theorists Society, this is the true tale of Five Nights at Freddy's. When you die in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, before you've even gotten over the jump scare, you sometimes get a screen like this. Oh, turn it off! Turn it off, it's too horrifying. That, youngsters, was E.T. for the Atari, a console that came out before the NES. Yes, around the same time as the dinosaurs. It's widely considered to be the worst game of all time, hence me reacting in a horrified manner. See? Humor, folks. But seriously, you get these disturbing death minigames which, true to the 1987 setting, use Atari-esque graphics to depict
my camera stopped doing the thing again. I'll try it one more time, and if it still freezes and stops, then I'll probably just be like, yeah, it's not worth it to try again. You know, if I could actually go back here and do what I need to do. So I gotta do that. Then come back here. I'm gonna let the video play while I'm setting this up.
Various horrific events. All the while, a creepy robotic voice spells out letter by letter things like help them, save them, or save him. These death minigames are the most important piece in figuring out the true story behind these games. Let's start with this one. This death minigame has you playing as Freddy, taking cake to screaming children at a birthday party. As Freddy rushes around trying to keep the whole party happy, a single sad child looks on from outside, when suddenly you're powerless to do anything but look on in abject horror as a purple man pulls up in a car, murders the child, and drives off.
Yikes. That's a big yikes.
I believe, loyal theorists, that this game takes place at Fredbear's Diner and is chronologically the first event that we see in this timeline. How do I know? Well, it's a small establishment and there's only one animatronic, Freddy, as opposed to all the other games which show other robots. But more importantly, this murdered child is the one that sets everything into motion. One of the new tasks added to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is winding a mysterious...
The interesting thing here is that we weren't sure if the murdered child out back was the puppet or if it was Golden Freddy. Now we know it's Charlotte who went to possess the puppet. So, yeah, that's a thing. But then the 4 children plus the 5th one that happened, Cassidy, man, everything just gets so complicated. Why am I why did I spend time, like, so much of my brain power knowing FNAF lore instead of school stuff? I would have, if only, like, I had a class about FNAF, then I would have just been sailing easy.
That we're told placates one of the animatronics. If you fail to wind the music box, what you're introduced to is this terrifying thing. The
Yikes.
puppet looks like No Face from Spirited Away. You know what else he looks like? Take a look at that murdered child again. See how his tear tracks remain visible on his face, even after he's dead? If we assume that they'll continue to stay with him into the afterlife, we can make a pretty good case that this kid's murdered spirit eventually found its way into the puppet animatronic. But that's
Speaking
not
of
all.
which,
What jumps
someone on YouTube, I forget who they are, but they're pretty popular. They actually made the puppet animatronic recently. I saw the video. That was really cool.
scare happens after this Save Him minigame? After seeing this tear-stained child's murder reenacted in 8-bit, the puppet
Now we know
jumps
it's
out of the
Save
screen
Her,
and attacks
but,
you. Coincidence?
you know.
I don't think so. That incident marks the first time the chain is ever associated with a violent act carried out against a child, and we can
Yeah.
infer that it was this incident that caused the original owners of Fredbear's Diner to sell off to the company now known as Fazbear Entertainment. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was senselessly murdered and left to haunt a crappy pizza place for the rest of my life in the body of an awful-looking clown doll, I'd want to get my revenge as soon as possible. Unfortunately for our
Me
vengeful
too.
puppet, though, it doesn't quite turn out that way. Fast forward a few years to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the first location,
first
one
one.
that has yet to
Okay.
appear in a game. This new restaurant is the one we learned about in my earlier episode and throughout the first game, where our pal the murderer uses a golden Freddy suit to lure away and kill 5 children in the back room. As we
Interesting.
read through the various
Was it-
articles on the wall,
Was it actually that we found out later it was the Spring Bonnie suit, I think, that was used instead of the Golden Freddy suit? But of course, at this point in the timeline, we didn't know anything about the Spring Bonnie suit, Spring Trap, so definitely, yeah, that happened.
he gets caught the next day, but the bodies are never found.
Yeah.
Presumably because they've been stuffed into the animatronic suits.
Oh,
the restaurant
definitely.
stays open for a few months until the dead body stink starts to waft off the robots and causes the place to get shut down for health reasons. But
Oof.
how do we know this happened in the first pizzeria's location? Again, we turn to what the phone guy says. On night 2 of Five Nights 2, he mentions the smell coming from the old animatronics, the smell that got the original restaurant shut down. We also
Yikes.
know that after the Golden Freddy incident, it took multiple months for the restaurant to get shut down. That couldn't have happened in the restaurant of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is shut down on night 6 and into the foreseeable future. But outside of
Yeah.
these lore clues, it also makes logical sense. Before the Golden Freddy murders, there was one dead child whose tear-stained soul existed in the form of the puppet. But now there are 5 more dead children, and thanks to
So
another of
that's
the
6
death
in
minigames,
total.
we find out exactly what happened to them. In the Help Them minigame, the puppet stuffs the dead children into the robotic suits, giving their souls new life, and preps them for their eternal mission of vengeance. But
Vengeance.
MatPat, you say through your chattering teeth, there are only 4 dead children in that game. To which I tell you,
closer.
look closer if you dare.
You
for
must
the
look
frame
closer.
right before Golden
Wait
Freddy's
for
head
it.
jumps out and attacks features the lost 5th dead child, and
Aha.
what started as a haunted puppet has suddenly become an army of possessed animatronics out for revenge. But
Let's
wait,
go.
that's not all we know. We also know the murder was committed by the same guy who killed the first child.
Yep.
How? Look at the Foxy death minigame. Twice, Foxy
Foxy,
runs
go,
out
go,
to meet
go.
the kids, but the third time we see the tall purple man again, smiling. Foxy goes into the other room to find 5 dead children. The man in purple strikes again. Skip ahead to 1987, finally bringing us to the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The
Finally,
old
we're
animatronics have
actually
been
talking about it.
retired, and the cute new versions of all our favorite friends come equipped with facial
so
recognition
sick.
software that just so happens to be connected to a sex offender database. Seems like an oddly specific detail, right? Until you consider that the last restaurant
Yeah,
was
we just
closed
kinda
for
had
having
to-
children.
We just kind of had to come to what is it, like, agree with the fact that at this point the FNAF locations and everything just had way too advanced technology for the time. Just like, yeah, just accept it. It's normal. They have super advanced technology. Just go with it.
Children get kidnapped and killed by an employee. It's a safety measure. You see
Yeah.
how it all ties together? So you have some
Connection.
animatronics possessed by vengeful spirits and another batch on the prowl for predators. But that doesn't stop our friend the Purple Man from continuing his life's work of murdering children at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. As we learn
Yeah.
from the phone guy on nights 4 through 6, the new restaurant is once again under investigation as, well, I'll let him explain.
Hello. What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down, at least for a while.
So sad.
Someone used one of the suits.
Yep.
We had a spare in the back, a yellow one.
Hmm.
Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right.
The
Oof.
Golden Freddy killer struck again.
Plot twist. It wasn't the Golden Freddy suit. It was Chica. I'm kidding.
The final death minigame also supports this. You, as Freddy, must walk through an exact replica of the building. Animatronics all in their proper
Yep.
places, seeing the 5 dead children spread out through the various rooms. And based on what Phone Guy says, it seems like the guilty party was the former night guard, the one who moved to day shift and the one your character replaced.
Possibly.
I mean, Phone Guy makes plenty of uncomfortable references to suddenly having an available position during the day.
When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. The position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it.
But is the Purple Man really
Yep.
someone we've never met and who's only worked there a week? Or is it someone we trust? Someone with a long history with these characters? Someone no one would suspect? The head guard. The one
Dun, dun, dun.
forced to fill empty positions and teach new recruits by leaving them instructions over the phone. Is the Purple
Uh-huh.
Man the phone guy?
You know, looking back on it, it's interesting to think about because in the movie, it turns out that technically, William Afton was the phone guy. It could have just been there for the sake of someone needed to talk to Mike on the phone, and so he was the most convenient one, obviously. Most logical one for it to make sense. But maybe that does tie into the game somehow. Maybe he was staging and being the phone guy. I don't know. The phone guy's identity is never really revealed, so yeah.
Ask yourself this: what do we really know about Phone Guy? Let's look at what he says. First, he always speaks like an outsider looking in. He refers to the management of the company as they. So he's not a higher up like the CEO or even a manager. But he's also not a typical day worker, as he says things like the employees and the staff. So he works there, but isn't generally considered a regular member of the company. We also know that he's qualified to take the role of a night guard. And as we learn, he plans to take over the position sometime after night 6, and is on his way out of the position by the time the first game starts.
For now, just make it through the night. When the place eventually opens,
I guess that would make it so that it wouldn't be William Afton, because he was one of the founders. And it wouldn't make sense for him to upgrade his position or whatever if he was, you know, the founder, but then demoted himself to a night guard. I don't know. I mean, I guess he could have used that as a tactic to, I don't know, lure children somewhere or give him an alibi. I don't know. Maybe, but no, I'm not as sure.
again, I'll probably take the night shift myself. I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact.
What else do we
Yeah.
know? Well, we know that the phone guy has a long history with the company, being with it at least since the first pizzeria that we haven't played in. He also openly admits that Foxy the Pirate was always his favorite, and that he has never
A lot
liked
of
the
fans'
puppet
favorite, too.
because, as he says, it was always thinking.
See, I told you you wouldn't have any problems. Did, Foxy ever appear in the hallway? Probably not. I was just curious. Like I said, he was always my favorite.
Freddy
I'll be
was always
honest,
my favorite.
I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking. And I can go
Thinking.
anywhere.
Okay,
Yep.
but what do we know about the purple guy, the Golden Freddy killer? Well, let's look at the mini-games again. He has a long history with the franchise, killing since it was Fredbear Diner. We see him smiling as he watches Foxy perform, Phone Guy's favorite, right before Foxy sees the room of dead children. We know that the puppet and the killer wouldn't get along, which would explain Phone Guy's discomfort around a creature that he describes as always thinking. And here's the bombshell. We know the killer is a security guard.
Sorry, I looked at the
On
comments. And I was
very
just like,
rare.
how has the franchise kept going on for years? People like it. People like the franchise. I guess that's it. Again, it's been almost a decade at this point.
Occasions during the Save
It's
Them
insane.
minigame, while Freddy chases the puppet, the purple man appears and chases you. Look on his chest. It's an orange badge, the kind that would be given to a security guard. Now look at his eyes. Notice the white spots? An odd, seemingly innocuous detail. But now look at Golden Freddy. Look deep into his dead, vacant eyes. What do you see? 2 white spots. Pinpricks, really. Barely visible. They're there. And now finally, what do we see in Purple Guy's hand? Well, the Atari graphics make it tough to discern. It's not like any gun or knife I've seen. No, that to me is very clearly a phone.
It had to have been... Because we know the purple guy is William Afton. So it would have had to have been at least some kind of tool to dismantle the animatronics, right? Right? But it does look kind of weird, I don't know.
Robotic voice is spelling out for you, save them, save them. But when Purple Guy, Phone Guy, catches you, the screen crashes and all you're left with is, you can't. But that's not where it ends,
Dang it, the
Internet.
thing
As
crashed
you and I
again.
both know, there's still Five Nights at Freddy's 1. If this game is last in line and the puppet is truly pulling the strings behind all of this, you might be asking yourself,
Okay, my screen crashed again. I'm gonna let the video play and I'll just try to pull it back up one more time. It sucks.
where he is in Five Nights 1. We know the other animatronics got scrapped, but this ghostly guy should still be around if this timeline I proposed is correct. And get this, the puppet is in the first game. Take a look at the East Hallway. It seems pretty normal,
It was in
right?
the first
But
game,
every
definitely.
so often, the posters on the walls change to this, a crying child with 2 streaming lines down his face. Look familiar? It should. The Five Nights at Freddy's series is about vengeance. 1 child, 6 children.
The one you
More,
should not have
looking
killed.
for revenge against a sick child killer. The purple guy. The
Okay,
guy
there we
who
go.
just so happens
It'll
to be
last for
the
at
first
least a little
voice
bit.
you hear when turning on these games. Save them. Save them. You can't.
You can't.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Game theory.
Make sure you wind that music box.
Dang. Yeah, that... Did it seriously stop again? Jeez. I can never catch a break. I don't know why it just stops showing my model. It's bad. Blah. Do you guys want me to watch the next one theory videos? It was the 2-parter for the 3rd game, right? Would you guys be interested in doing that with me? Having fun? Even if I can't always get my model to appear on screen? Let me see. Can I even fix it anymore? I don't know. No. Don't mind it. I won't. Okay. I don't know. FNAF is so influential at this point. It's really crazy how a game with literally 0 budget became a multi-million-dollar franchise, I'd assume. I don't actually know how much money it's made, but it's made a whole lot. I know that. Hello, everyone. Hello to new people. We're gonna try to watch the next 2 videos, I think. And then after those, I think I'm gonna... Oh, I dropped something. After the next 2 videos, I think I'm gonna drop it, end the stream, but we'll continue for now. We'll see how these go. But first, ad. Ooh. Yeah, MatPat was starting to get more cinematic with these opening cards. Scary. It's so spoopy, guys. I do like how stylized the opening was, though. That was really interesting to see him do that. Man, it was just interesting to see MatPat's channel growing along with the popularity of FNAF. It was awesome. It was really cool.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory,
my thing
where
froze
good
again.
things, or at least FNAF things,
Well,
come
I'll
to
just
those who
leave it
wait.
frozen, I guess.
And man, when it comes to this game series, no one was waiting for anything. I mean,
No.
the second game came out 3 months after the first, the trailer for the third was 2 months later, and like 4 minutes after that, the game was available to download. So forgive me if I was caught with my pants down on that one. I just wasn't prepared for
Scott
it. But
released
even more
these
impressive than
games
that abbreviated
so
timeline-
quickly one after the other. It was insane. It was crazy at the time. Nowadays, now that the games are a lot bigger scale, he had to slow down, sometimes even had to delay games. But in these early days, he made 4 games within the span of a year. That's insane.
And was your ability to rip that final game apart. Hours after the release of the game, people were discussing good versus bad endings, 8-bit Atari cake, glitching through walls, and punching a flipping code into cement bricks arranged like a telephone dial pad. In regards to that last one, I have 2 things to say. First off, well done to you guys for figuring it out so quickly, and
How
secondly,
did people figure it out so quickly? Like, they just tore the game to shreds. Like, how do they do stuff that fast? It's
seriously.
crazy.
Seriously, Scott? Oh, look, here's a wall. Let me just dial in my phone number. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. What? When did we
I love
jump
that
from
moment.
a point-and-click horror game to magical fantasy? This thing is like platform 9 3/4. I expect Harry effing Potter to apparate into Pirate's Cove or something. Jeez, here I was thinking that you'd plug your numbers into, the one other place that you see numbers in this game, the bonus jump scare menu, or something, anything. But nope, dialing it into a wall makes so much more sense.
How did people even
Love
figure
games,
that
but hate
out?
the grind.
That
With
was
Gleamon, you can
crazy.
be invincible, unimaginably wealthy.
Okay, sorry, just needed to get that one off my chest.
Yeah.
Moving on. Now, with 15 days at Freddy's under our belts and a few overtime hours clocked in for good measure, we have ourselves a completed video game trilogy, with the third game giving us more jump scares, more phone guy, and more
Fan.
But this game also contains the final clues we need to get some closure on this game's deviously vague story. Scotty C certainly didn't make things any easier for us, but at this point I
No.
think we finally have enough puzzle
Like,
pieces
his
scattered
puzzles
across
got
the
more complicated, but people were figuring them out faster and faster. I was like, how do people do this?
games to assemble a fairly accurate picture of this franchise's lore. Since you guys had a, let's just say, above average interest in this theory, I wanted to create something that answered as many questions as possible about this franchise. But beyond just the details, the question we all want an answer to is, what exactly happened in the story throughout this series? It's a pretty fundamental question to not have an answer to, and yet, despite thousands of videos, forum entries, and Tumblr posts, whoa, hey, put that away. You behave yourself. This game is already scary enough without you sticking
Why
your
did he
hook
have to
somewhere
include
it
that in the
doesn't belong,
video?
okay? Despite
Cringe.
all those things, we still don't have a
So
clear
much
picture on
cringe.
the details. Yes, there's a child killer on the loose, the infamous purple guy, who's been using Fazbear pizzerias as his hunting ground of choice for years, but going into the third game, we still weren't sure about who this guy was or even how many victims he'd officially taken. Then there are the animatronics. Sure, we generally understand that
It was crazy how we didn't know who the purple guy was for the longest time. But nowadays, of course, we know. We know it's William Afton, but back then we just had to try to figure it out ourselves. We had no idea.
Dead bodies have been stuffed into some of the suits, and that with the help of the puppet, the kids were able to find new life in those robotic bodies. But then, what about Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, who
Robots
randomly
Man Lever,
appeared
quit
in FNAF
spamming
2, only
cheese.
to become prominent
Quit
figures
spamming
throughout Part
cheese.
3? How did they fit in? What about the ghostly Golden Freddy? Someone we've been talking about since the first game, and yet we still don't really know anything about him. Well, now that we finally have all the facts, I think it's time we revisit my timeline I presented in the last episode to see what I got right, what I
Oh, the timeline. Oh, it's gonna get so complicated.
got wrong. Yes, you heard that. Wrong. No shame. I'm a big boy. Mommy, wow, I'm a big kid now.
Let's
and finally
go.
fill in the missing details to create what I believe to be my definitive Five Nights theory. And
Until the 4th game came out.
boy, howdy, it is a doozy. So strap in, theorists.
All
you
right.
wanted it, you're about to get it.
Let's do
Overall,
this.
the timeline of the franchise I presented in the last video still holds strong. Decades before the name became a horror legend meriting its own theme park style attraction, Freddy Fazbear got his start at Fredbear Family Diner. It's here where our story begins as Purple Guy takes his first victim. Something we see
Someone
in the
who
Take
we
Cake
came to
minigame
understand
from
was
Five Nights at
Charlotte,
Freddy's 2.
or
What
Charlie.
tells us that this is Fredbear's and first in the timeline? Well, as I said last time, in addition to it being a small space, the only character we see is Freddy, whereas all other minigames feature multiple animatronics. He's also holding a cupcake.
So I'm
since
also
that
kind of
would
curious. We now know that the security puppet was there at that location too. So I'm just, it's weird knowing that now. Obviously, I don't think Scott had necessarily planned everything at this point in time. So it probably wasn't, he didn't intend to show it here in the little cut screen, but then it was included later on. But I am curious how far ahead he thought at this point in the series.
later become Chica's signature item, the event depicted in this game must have come before she was created. Additionally, notice that the purple guy's murder takes place outside the building. This is the only time we see him murder someone outside the walls of a Fazbear building, which implies that this is likely his first victim. Serial killers often have what's known as a signature, a way of killing that's unique to him and him alone. For Purple Guy, his signature is dressing in an animatronic costume, then luring children to the back of the pizzeria and killing.
Yeah, it could have been FNAF. I genuinely don't know what got me into watching true crime stuff, but I am like I am now like super into true crime. I got into it, I'd say maybe high school. I watch a whole bunch of different people, and it's really interesting. I am morbidly curious about how people are just able to take the lives of other people. It's insane how people can actually just do that and not, I don't know. It's weird.
There. But this murder occurs before he developed this particular style, implying that it's the first. From there, we know that the puppet jump scare that always follows this minigame, combined with the tier design on both the dead child and the puppet's mask, implies that the soul of the first child now exists in the puppet. The event caused the original owners to sell the Fredbear name, who then rebranded
I also love how they used the Gravity Falls diner thing for that location.
They then opened a new chain of restaurants, which we never saw in the games until the release of Five Nights 3.
Yeah.
This is not Fredbear Diner like many interpret, but rather the first location of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, predating the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Thinking
How do we know?
probably
Well,
what
by paying
came
close
to be the
attention to
FNAF
old
4
recordings of
location,
Phone
I'd
Guy
say.
dug up in FNAF 3, he introduces us to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Diner, before explaining the functionality of the special spring-lock suits.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now we have two specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit.
He also lets us know that the animatronics are still allowed to walk around freely during the day, meaning that this is happening before the bite of 87, in which an animatronic...
Nowadays, robots are actually, like, able to walk, so I'm curious, like, if Chuck E. Cheese or, like, partnered with FNAF, or FNAF just made its own freaking attraction, I wonder if they would actually be able to get animatronics that could walk around on their own, you know, without people needing to puppet suits or anything. It would probably cost a fortune, but I'm curious if that would even be possible for them to do.
Bites someone during business hours, removing their frontal lobe, and resulting in the animatronics being restricted to moving around only at night.
For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound cues.
As Phone Guy informs us, and as we see in the Stage 01 minigame, there are two specialty suits, a Golden Bonnie suit and the origins of the infamous Golden Freddy.
Let's
but the
go.
lifespan of these Springlock suits is actually short-lived as we learn about their one fatal flaw.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and
Also, side note, what are the white spots on the screen? Are they supposed to be clouds or lights? I don't know. Whatever, it's fine, it doesn't matter anyway.
Springlock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. The classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location.
Now, let's pause here. Two employees are killed by the failure of a Bonnie suit and a Freddy suit. Where else in the game do we see Bonnie and Freddy sharing a unique feature that no one else in the game possesses? Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Could this be the origin of the paranormal Shadow suits? Yes, actually.
Was that actually, like, addressed later on in the series? Because I legit don't remember. And, I mean, it definitely could have been at this point, but what were they, honestly? Shadow Freddy, Shadow Bonnie. Huh. Never really thought about them after this anymore.
Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie are tied to the ghosts of the employees who died in the spring suits. Get this, the employees' bodies were taken out of the suits, which is why their appearance is more paranormal and why they can't possess them as well as the children can. Plus, having this as their origin would explain the in-game behavior of both suits. In FNAF 3, we see that...
What if the Shadow animatronics were like the leftover agony, is that what it is, of like the kids that got experimented on? Sorry, now even my frozen image disappeared. Maybe it was like leftover agony, like what the blob is in Security Breach.
Purple Guy hides in a secret safe room that has been built into every pizzeria. A room that's hidden to customers and invisible to the animatronics programming. During the minigames that occur between nights, we see Shadow Freddy lead the other animatronics to this secret room, only to cause them to glitch out and then get torn apart by Purple Guy. This supernatural origin story is how Shadow Freddy is able to enter the safe room when other animatronics can't. How he's able to lead you to that room in the first place when other animatronics wouldn't be able to see it based on their programming. And even why he leads you there, knowing that Purple Guy attacking you will eventually free your soul. That's also why there's no Purple Freddy suit when you do finally enter that room. It's not an alternate Purple Guy costume like many believe, it's an apparition. Suck on that, Harry Potter, I knew someone would apparate eventually. It also explains why Shadow Bonnie's minigame in FNAF 3 always starts on Stage 01, the spring suits, and why it's the one animatronic we control that has the ghostly ability to glitch, fly, and teleport. As we concluded last episode, this is also the point in the timeline of the first missing children's incident, the one we learn about via newspaper clippings in Five Nights 1. So, based on the newspaper clipping evidence we have, we know that the mauve murderer dressed in one of the suits lured children to a back room and killed them. He's starting to develop his signature, but one nag...
Are we gonna be able to, like, see this actual incident in Into the Pit? I know that that's a game that's happening soon. I wonder if we're actually Don't be bothered. Don't care. Don't care. I don't care that it disappeared. Okay. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see if that happened.
nagging detail FNAF theorists have been wondering is, what suit does he use for his disguise? The answer? Golden Bonnie.
Let's
Why?
go.
Well, remember the phone guy saying the faulty suits were being retired to an appropriate location. There's a high likelihood they're being stored in one of the safe rooms in the restaurants. Plus, we hear in FNAF 2 that the purple guy has a habit of using a yellow suit.
We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it.
But why not Golden Freddy? Phone guy tells us so at the beginning of Night 5 in FNAF 3.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved.
My, what an
Yeah.
oddly specific detail to include, Scott Cawthon. And
How
remember,
specific?
these tapes that play in FNAF 3 date all the way back to the first pizzeria location, which is why this detail is so important. It reflects Purple Guy starting to develop his signature killing pattern. From there, we know the rest of the story. Purple Guy kills the kids, stuffs the bodies into the suits to hide them, but as we read the paper, is caught on camera and arrested. Meanwhile, the puppet gives life to the children.
Was that, like, actually addressed later on in the franchise again? Or was it, like, they put the wrong person behind bars? Because I don't remember there ever being something where, like, William Afton was actually caught for it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm planning on hopefully maybe marathoning these until the official day that, you know, FNAF hits 10 years old, so we'll see.
And the angry spirits possess the robots. Or is that
Yeah.
really how it goes? Let's go back to the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame. The children are lying there dead, and the puppet first tries to give them presents. Weird, right? Weird until you consider that his place is at the prize corner. Giving presents is the only thing he knows that can make children happy. It's a reflex. Remember, this is still a child spirit in this puppet, but when that doesn't work, the puppet goes around one more time and does the only other thing it can think of: put the bodies into the suits. You heard that right. In trying to save the children, he's the one hiding them in the animatronic suits, not the killer like we've been assuming. But then what about the fifth child, as there's only 4 here? Well, as we pointed out last time, the fifth child is there too, appearing at the very end of the minigame and taking the role of Golden Freddy. But remember, Golden Freddy is a decommissioned spring-lock suit at this point, deemed too unsafe to be functional. The reason he's slumped over and can't move like the rest is that his endoskeleton has been taken out. He's in suit mode, not free roaming mode. He
Suit mode. Let's
physically
go.
doesn't have the mechanisms in place to stand up and move. Possessed or no,
Sorry, I'm getting a little lightheaded, so I'm just kind of zoning out a little bit. I'm trying to come up with commentary, but it's blah.
a dead child's spirit just can't give a boneless suit the ability to stand. This also explains the lone naked endoskeleton that appears occasionally in both Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 1.
And sometimes
An
it looks at you
endoskeleton
in
that
Five
once
Nights
belonged
1,
to Golden
and it's
Freddy.
creepy.
Whew. I know I made you wait for this one, so I knew I had to make it count. Heck, if there ain't a lot to cover. Still with me? Good, because we're ready for our next location. You see, since the puppet hid the bodies, no one knows they're in the suits until they start oozing and smelling, which, as we see in the papers, eventually gets the place shut down for health violations. The company tries to recover from, quote, the tragedy that took place there many years ago, but can't, and eventually is forced to shut its doors for good. This leads to the trailer for Five
Until
Nights
they
at
poke
Freddy's
fun
2.
at it.
Finally, we're actually going to talk about a game in the series.
Yeah,
Seriously,
finally.
can you believe we've been going this whole time on locations that aren't even settings for the 3 main games? That is why this lore is so challenging, but also so interesting. Anyway, forgotten, dismantled, deactivated. These are the words you see at the beginning of the trailer. Back when the debate about whether this game was a sequel or a prequel to the first game, these words made it seem like a follow-up, that everything had been shut down since the first game, but
Which
it wasn't.
was a
These
brilliant
words are
move on
reference to
Scott's
the
part.
business
That was
being
a
closed
huge
down after that first missing
and very
children's
intentional
incident.
misdirect
That's
that he
why
did really
posters
well.
everywhere in Five Nights 2 are all about the brand new Fazbear Pizza. It's the grand reopening after years of being out of business. That's also why the new toy animatronics have built-in facial recognition software to a criminal database. They need to be careful to prevent another incident, but
Let's
as we
go.
know, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
As we see in the Save Them minigame,
When
5 more
When
children
William
get
Afton was the
killed in
one who created the animatronics. He was like, oh yeah, this will keep the kids safe, even though it won't actually keep the kids safe because he had programmed it not to.
This new location. We know it's the new location because the minigame map's layout perfectly matches this new Fazbear business. We also know it couldn't have happened earlier in the timeline as both the old animatronics and new toy robots are presented in the game. But this time, the puppet's solution isn't saving the kids, it's stopping the killer. He enlists the help of Freddy to try and SAVETHEM, leading the bear to the killer's location. Except Purple Guy came prepared, equipped with not a phone, but rather something to help him tamper with the animatronics. He knows that something fishy is going on with these robots, because he's been watching, studying. The puppet wants Freddy to save them, to which the killer's answer is only this: you can't.
You
So
can't.
how did the purple guy manage it when he had been caught years before? What about the bite of 87? How do FNAF 1 and 3 fit in? And most importantly of all, who is the purple guy?
Dun, dun, dun.
All that next week.
Next
Don't worry,
time.
I'll come back. I
That was,
always
yeah.
do. In the
MatPat at that point hadn't made too many two-part videos. But by the time FNAF 3 happened, two-parters, at least with FNAF, were kind of a given for his channel.
In the meantime, it's all just a
a
theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so I'm not feeling good because I still have COVID, so I think I'm actually going to call it here for the stream. Also because, you know, my webcam isn't working, as always, as usual. So, I'm gonna end the stream here, and maybe next time we'll watch some more videos, maybe we'll try something else. I'm mostly just experimenting with these live streams, seeing what you guys like, what I can do, that kind of thing. So, I'll see you guys hopefully next week. Hopefully I'll feel better at this point. 'Cause, yikes, COVID is not fun, but I'm pushing through. So anyway, see you guys next time. Bye!